With me is his father, Charlie Bothuell. Charlie, we're getting reports that your son has been found in your basement. Sir? Mr. Bothuell, are
What?
you...
Welcome back. I'm Cassie, and this is A Wicked World. The story I have for you today is rather unusual. It's about a little boy who went missing for over 10 days, but he was found alive. But the question is, did somebody put this little boy in the place where he would be found? Or did he run away from his parents because he was sick of their mistreatment? This is the story of Charlie Bothuell. Charlie Bothuell V lived with his father, Charles Bothuell, and his stepmother, Monique Dillard Bothuell, in Detroit, Michigan. His biological mother's name is Africa Shippings, and she lived about 2 miles away from where Charlie's father lived. Charlie also had an older brother and a younger sister. At the time of this story, when Charlie was 12 years old, he was said to love playing computer games, video games, and he also loved watching the Transformer movies as well as any superhero movie. Charlie had lived with his father and stepmother since November of 2011. He had attended school up until 5th grade before he was then pulled out by his father, Charles, and he homeschooled him. Now, while Charles did teach his son, he was not teaching him at his proper education level. And one of the reasons that Charlie had actually been living with his father was because his mother had noticed that his grades had began to slip. So she thought that if he spent some quality time with his father, Charles, it would help him. But on June 14th, 2014, Charles would call the police and report that his son Charlie had gone missing from the family's townhouse located on Nicollet Place in Detroit. Charles said that his son Charlie had been home with his wife while he had been working in his office in Southfield as a registered nurse. Apparently, the boy had stopped in the middle of one of his required workout sessions so that he could use the bathroom, and after that, he hadn't returned. Charles had actually received the phone call from his wife around 9:45 p.m. that night, and she told him that Charlie had gone missing around 9. Since then, she had looked everywhere for the boy, but she was unable to find him. So Charles immediately left work, got into his car, and headed home to look for his son. The father also called emergency services, and he later claimed that the response he received from the emergency dispatcher was dismissive and disrespectful, and it actually took him 3 phone calls to finally file a missing persons report. From there, police were dispatched to the home, and shortly after midnight, they began looking for Charlie. After the authorities had searched the townhouse where Charlie lived with his family, and they had found no trace of him, they then began to search the surrounding area. But after days of searching, they had found no signs of the boy. And as is usually the case, Charlie's father Charles and his stepmother Monique, whom he lived with, became persons of interest. As such, Charles was given a polygraph test, but the results came back as inconclusive. Also following Charlie's disappearance on June 14th, both his father Charles and his biological mother Africa made emotional television pleas for the return of their boy. Even though Charlie's father and stepmother were both considered to be people of interest, they were not at this time considered to be suspects. They did, however, both voluntarily go down to the police station and fill out questionnaires. And while Charlie's father and stepmother were down at the police station, police were also executing a search warrant to further search their apartment to look for any trace evidence. When speaking with police, Charlie's father Charles admitted that his son was having some behavioral problems prior to his disappearance. He said that his son had set a couple fires in the rear hallway of the apartment complex, and he had tried to burn down their house on 2 occasions. When police asked the father what would have made his 12-year-old leave home, he told them that due to his unacceptable behavior, he had told Charlie that he was on the verge of sending him to either military school or boarding school. Charles also said that his son had actually run away from home about 2 years ago, but he had only been missing for 3 hours before police were able to find him. So he believed that Charlie was okay somewhere. Charlie's stepmother, Monique, also told police that she had been having troubles with the boy. She said that Charlie didn't want to listen to her, didn't want to listen to rules, and wanted to make his own rules around the house. She also told police that not only had Charlie been sick of being homeschooled, but he also wanted to go live with his biological mother again. An entire 10 days had passed and Charlie had gone missing, but there was still no sign of him. Police decided to bring canines into the apartment complex where Charlie had lived with his family to search for him yet again, but still, nothing was found. Then, the following day, on June 25th, while Charles was making an appearance on Nancy Grace, talking about his missing son, he was suddenly informed on air by Nancy Grace that his son had been found in their own basement. And this is the same one that had already been searched a couple of times.
To the father of the missing 12-year-old boy, Charlie. With me is his father, Charlie Bothuell. Charlie, we're getting reports that your son has been found in your basement. Sir? Mr. Bothuell, are you...
What?
Yeah, we are getting reports that your son has been found alive in your basement.
What?
Yes, that's what, if you could hand me that wire very quickly. Yeah, we're getting that right now from how could your son be alive in your basement?
Oh, shit. I have no idea.
Now, this is just a report that we are hearing out of Detroit that we're trying to confirm.
God,
everybody
please.
in New York, please get on it. Let me know when we get Charlie Langton from WWJ. Sir, did you check your basement?
I checked my basement. The FBI checked my basement. The Detroit police checked my basement. My wife checked my basement. I've been down there several times. We've all been checking. How?
Okay, this is what we are hearing, that the missing 12-year-old boy has been found alive and well in his father's basement. Now, this is what I don't understand why you guys would have reported he's missing, and all our viewers have been on the lookout for him.
We've been on the lookout for him. We searched that entire house repeatedly. The FBI searched, the Detroit police searched. We've all searched. Oh, God, they brought dogs, everything. Everybody is searched. What? Okay.
Police had finally located Charlie in the townhome's shared basement where he lived. While they were down there, they had noticed that the basement was littered with boxes, trash, food items, furniture, and other debris. As the officers had been looking around in the basement, one of them had noticed a blanket with some food on it. Then, that's when he saw that something over there was moving. It was Charlie, and he was found alive and well behind a makeshift barricade. He, however, was rather thin and had marks on his upper body. Charlie was also shivering, hungry, and had been wearing the same clothes that he had gone missing in. In the hidden area that the boy had been barricaded into, police found food and bedding items. An officer said that it was very unlikely that the boy would have been able to barricade himself into that part of the basement all by himself. When they found Charlie, police also discovered that there was an underground tunnel in the apartment complex that was easily accessible from the basement and connected the other apartments, as well as led to the outside of the building. Now, normally the door outside that led to this tunnel was locked and closed. However, the week that Charlie had actually gone missing, it had been open and unlocked so that residents could bring their trash outside to the dumpster. When the officers and Charlie were walking back up the basement stairs after they found him, Charlie asked them if his father was home at the time. When they told him no, he replied back, "Good." And from there, the police brought Charlie to McDonald's to get something to eat before they then took him to the children's hospital to get examined.
The story didn't fit together for me. Then we had him on, but I still wanted to help find the boy regardless of what had happened. Mm-hmm. So we put him back on the show, the father back on the show. Just before we go to him, my producer says, I think I better tell you something. I said, what? and he tells me they think the boy's been found alive in the father's basement, which, of course, doesn't make any sense at all. Since that time, this is what I've learned. There is a series of interconnecting hallways between the townhouses, and they think the boy may have used those. This is what else we've learned. The police in Detroit tell us that there was a barricade built using very heavy drums and boxes they don't think a child could have built. I know the father had an inconclusive poly, and the stepmother refused a poly. Now, does that necessarily mean they're implicated? No, because they say they felt that they were suspects at the beginning. It's all, his story is riddled with inconsistencies, but when I saw him last night after our show, he was crying and hugging reporters, saying he wants to see his son, he wants to see his son. That does not look like a guilty man to me.
When investigators sat down to speak with Charlie, he told them that 11 days prior, on the day he had gone missing, his stepmother Monique had accused him of cutting his daily exercise routine short. This had made her upset, so she had brought him down to the basement into a cleared-out spot behind all the boxes. And when the stepmother spoke to police, she had actually shown them photos of the family's elliptical machine from that day, and it showed that Charlie had only taken 3,008 steps when he was required to take 4,000 steps. Charlie went on to tell officers that his stepmother had hidden him down in the basement, and she told him to be quiet. "Don't make any noise, no matter what you hear," she said. Monique hadn't even left her stepson Charlie any food or drink. And Charlie said that after she hid him down there, he could hear her calling his father on the phone and telling his father that he had gone missing. And not only had Monique not left Charlie with any food down in the basement, during the entire 11 days, nobody would bring food down to him. Charlie, however, did tell police that at night he would escape and sneak up to the family's apartment to steal food and drinks, as well as use the bathroom. He said that he had remained quiet, however, when police searched the basement prior, because he was afraid that they would never take his word over Monique's. In addition, Monique had previously threatened Charlie, telling him that she could end his life and nobody would know because he was homeschooled. When Charlie had been brought to the Children's Hospital of Michigan for treatment after he had been found, a doctor observed a half-circular scar on the boy's chest. Charlie told doctors that he had obtained this scar when his father Charles had taken a PVC pipe and driven it into him, then twisted it. He also had old scars on his buttocks from being hit by the same PVC pipe, and Charlie said this had happened about 2 months prior to his disappearance. The 12-year-old said that the home where he lived with his father and stepmother was a terrible place to be. He said he was expected to do everything perfectly and was never given any leeway. During the search of the apartment where Charlie lived with his father and stepmother, police had actually found a PVC pipe that had blood on it, though they were unable to determine whose blood it was. They also found multiple articles of Charlie's clothing that had blood on them. Charlie also said that when he had previously run away, when he had only been missing for about 3 hours, after he had been sent back home with his father, Charles made Charlie lay across the dining room table, and then he hit him with a stick as well as the PVC pipe. From there on out, anytime he was hit by his father, it was with that pipe. He said he was hit all over his body, his head, his butt, his feet, his back. But when police spoke with Charles again, he denied ever abusing his son. And he said that the blood that police had found on lots of Charlie's clothes had actually been because Charlie had eczema and he would scratch it like crazy, making it bleed. In addition to the beatings with the pipe, the boy would say that his father would sometimes punch him and choke him as well. And sometimes his punishment would be to stand in the corner for hours on end with his arms up in the air, and he was not allowed to drop his arms, or he would have to start all over again. The 12-year-old boy also had no friends because he said his father and stepmother never let him go outside, and since he didn't attend school, he didn't know anyone. He said that the only time he had actually been allowed to leave the house was when he went with his stepmother Monique to drop his little brother off at school, or when he went with her to do groceries. Charlie also told police in detail about his daily workout routine, which began with a protein shake around 5 o'clock in the morning under the supervision of his father. Twice a day, every day, Charlie said that he had been forced to complete workouts, which consisted of 100 push-ups, 200 sit-ups, 100 jumping jacks, 25 curls on each arm with a 25-pound weight, and 1,000 revolutions on the elliptical machine. And if he hadn't finished this workout in an hour, he was forced to do it again after being beaten. Charlie also told police that not only did his father hit him, but on occasion, Monique had actually punched him as well. Things had actually gotten so bad inside the home that in May of 2013, Charlie said that he had actually slit his wrists in an attempt to end his life. And when he was asked why he had never said anything to his biological mother about what was going on in his father's home, Charlie said it was because he didn't think it would even make a difference. Charlie would be released from the hospital just one day after police had found him down in the basement. From there, he went to live with his biological mother, who would later get legal custody of him. Around the same time, Charlie's stepmother Monique was taken into police custody for a parole violation. When they had previously searched the house, they had found a handgun, and since Monique was on parole at that time, she was not allowed to have it. However, Charles would bond Monique out of jail just a few days later, so no one had yet been charged with anything relating to the abuse of Charlie. Not long after Monique had bonded out of jail, the state sought to end her and Charles's parental rights of Charlie and his 2 siblings, who had actually been taken away by social services just a few days after Charlie had been found in the basement. Monique and Charles' parental rights ended up being taken away. They were, however, granted supervised visits with their children, not including Charlie. Charlie's grandmother also spoke with investigators, and she told them that the last time she had seen her grandson, he was very skinny and almost looked like a cancer patient. He had marks all over his arms and chest. Finally, in April of 2015, both Charles and Monique were arrested, and they were both charged with torture as well as second-degree child abuse, and they were held on $50,000 bonds. However, the charge of torture, which could have resulted in life sentences for the pair, was later dropped by the courts. Even though it was pretty clear that Charlie had been mistreated by his father and stepmother, neighbors of the family believed that when Charlie had gone missing, he had actually just run away from his parents instead. They assumed that Charlie had used the tunnel down in the basement to come and go as he pleased. One neighbor even said that they had spotted the preteen outside playing basketball during one of the days while police and his parents had been searching for him, though I'm not sure how no one else saw him. So theoretically, Charlie could have left the basement during the day and then come back and slept there at night, which would explain why neither the FBI or their search dogs were able to find Charlie when they had searched the basement previously twice. And Charles was still denying that he had ever hurt his son. So he decided he was not going to plead guilty, as he knew he was innocent, and he wanted the case instead to go to trial.
That entire story that was blown up all over the world about me supposedly, beating my son bloody and then having this plastic stick, this bloody plastic stick that they paraded in front of the media, it was a lie. There's no bloody plastic stick pipe.
With papers in hand, Charlie Bothuell IV addressed the Foster Care Review Board, showing them evidence from state police that proves some of the accusations against him were wrong.
It's just disappointing to me that, you have a DHS worker, state employee, who's responsible for looking out for children to make this up, to tell this patent falsehood, and for my children to, still not be returned to, my full care and custody.
Fresh from learning torture charges against Bothuell and his wife Monique Dillard were dropped about a month ago, Bothuell is fighting to get custody of his baby and his 5-year-old son Luke, who's autistic. He tells me Luke has regressed since he's been in foster care.
My son Luke, he had began making purposeful vocalizations, and the speech abilities that he gained prior to be taken out of our home, he's regressed now. And all the experts are saying that as a direct result of not getting the services that he needed, that he will probably never be able to speak.
From here, the review board will come up with a recommendation, and so will DHS. They will pass it on to a judge who will make a decision at some point. Aside from battling this, Bothuell and his wife still have a child abuse charge, which is punishable up to 10 years in prison. And he's also fighting to clear his name.
Wasn't guilty of the torture, not guilty of child abuse.
And Charles's attorney was saying that his client's son Charlie was a liar. And he had only made up the story about being in the basement for 11 days because he had actually wanted to run away and go live with his mother instead. Probably because he's being mistreated at home, so do you blame him? Charles's lawyer pointed out that there were no locks on the basement doors, on the bathrooms, or on the refrigerator. So, Charlie could have freely left the basement at any point, he claimed. The defense also said that not only was Charlie making up the fact that he had been living in the basement for 11 days, but he was also making up all the allegations of abuse. They said if he had been abused, why didn't he tell any of his other family members about it? And Charlie acknowledged that indeed he had not told other people about his mistreatment, but he said that he was not lying about it. The defense attorney would also reveal a statement that was written by Charlie in 2014. It said that he had washed the dishes with a sponge that had been exposed to bleach so that he could get his family sick, and then he'd be able to return to his mother's house. But Charlie said those words came from his stepmother, not him, and he never intended to get anyone sick.
Where the now 13-year-old took the stand.
And can we understand little Charlie rarely used the words father or even dad in court?
That's correct. Little Charlie mostly referred to his father as Charlie Bothuell IV, and he avoided even looking in his direction at all. Little Charlie said living with his dad and stepmom was so depressing, he even attempted suicide.
Ever go anywhere with friends?
No.
Why not?
I didn't have any.
Why not?
I never went outside unless I was allowed. I was told to basically lay across the table, down on the table, and I basically got spanked on the butt.
With what? Anything?
A wooden stick for a short while, and then a plastic PVC pipe.
All at the same time?
Yes.
What did she do?
Sometimes she would punch me, or I got choked once.
By her or someone else?
Her.
Can you tell us where you had injuries?
On my butt.
Well, how do you know it was injured?
Because the skin was split open.
How do you know that?
I could feel it, and I saw it before.
Okay. What would happen when the skin would be broken, if you can tell us?
It would bleed.
And even though Charlie's father, intended on taking it to trial because he knew that he was innocent, he started to run out of funds for his legal representation. So in January of 2016, during a court hearing, Charles Bothuell admitted to hitting his son with a PVC pipe, and he pled guilty to fourth-degree child abuse. His guilty plea was in exchange for the dismissal of the second-degree child abuse charge. Charles was then sentenced to 18 months of probation. He was also ordered to take anger management classes and have no contact with his son Charlie. Monique Dillard Bothuell also accepted a plea deal earlier on. The details of her plea deal, however, were not made public. But it was said that if she stayed out of legal trouble for 6 months, her record would then be cleared. As of today, Charlie is 22 years old and has a serious girlfriend. He seems to be doing well and looks happy. Well, thank you for listening to Charlie's story today. To me, it seems like Charlie did run away, but it was only because of all the mistreatment he was experiencing at the hands of his father and stepmother. He was able to get out of his hiding spot in the basement at night to go use the bathroom and get food. So who's to say he wasn't just coming and going as he pleased during the day, as the neighbors said he was? But even if Charlie's father and stepmother aren't responsible for his disappearance, they are responsible for the cruel treatment towards him, which made him run away in the first place. So if you do like true crime and you want to hear it from me, then don't forget to hit that subscribe button below and turn on those notifications too, so you'll know when I upload a new video, which is about 2 times every week. And also check out my other true crime channel called Wicked Ways, where I cover adult cases and other true crime. Thanks for checking out A Wicked World today, guys. Until next time, take care. Bye. Thank you to all the patrons of A Wicked World. Now, there's even more of A Wicked World on Patreon. So check it out at patreon.com/awickedworld or use the Patreon app. You'll have access to exclusive videos each month and more. Any support truly helps to make sure the victims never get forgotten and to highlight the shortcomings of society associated with each case. Do you have a suggestion for a case you'd like to see me cover? If so, send me an email at awickedworldtruecrime@gmail.com.